All right, everybody, welcome to session 2, and we're doing a crash course on church marketing. We're primarily talking to pastors, right? You're not a marketing expert. You didn't go to college for marketing, but you have to do marketing. You have to do outreach. You have to reach people. It's part of our calling. And so today we're talking about word of mouth marketing. This is one of my favorite topics.
Yeah, this is. And really, just quick explanation, this is the most important influencer in your community's decision to visit your church. Yeah. Obviously, if you've been around church for a while, you know this, that if people are inviting, that's the best way of actually getting people to show up online or in person. So this is a big one, and I think we've got a lot of great content for you here to unpack how to make this a part of your culture, your church, and how to make the most of this with how it works with every other area of marketing that we're talking about.
And that's what I love about, and what we're talking about today, this one's almost like, this one will work, but it'll make the other ones work even better. This is like that fuel that you add on the fire. And the other reason I love talking about this is, for the most part, what we're talking about is free.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to spend any money to do this.
Yeah, free and highly effective. That's lead pastors love this.
Right, come on. It's like
so you guys are leaning in, taking notes. So let's jump into this. As you know, we're doing an aha moment on this, and the aha moment for this one is that keep in mind, while word of mouth is the number one driver of people deciding to visit your church, that is true. You always see that on any sort of data. But keep in mind, there's always going to be multiple things that are influencing somebody's decision, even if there is a personal invitation there. So we've done a lot of assessments at Summit Park Church. We're a church plant about 7 years in at the time of this recording. And so early on, we wanted to know everything that was influencing people's decision to visit the church so we could double down and invest. Yeah, what's working, what's not working. And so we did 300 visitor surveys where we got back the data, and we didn't say, hey, tell us the number one reason. We said, mark everything that influenced your decision to visit Summit Park Church. And here's what we found. We found that most everybody who's visiting the church, there's multiple things that is influencing them to visit. So while word of mouth, yes, is important, which a lot of pastors don't realize is word of mouth works with other things, works with your website, works with your ads, works with social media. And so that is the aha moment, is that you can't just say, oh, people only come if they're invited, so we're not going to do anything else. Everything's got to be working together. That
made the word of mouth like the personal invite, which is, right? When you look at the data, it's like, what's the number one factor? It's always word of mouth, personal invite. But the data falls short because that's usually the tipping point.
Right.
Like that's the last thing that finally pushed somebody over the edge, and it may discount, weeks, months, even years of all this other stuff that churches have done as well.
Yeah, and we've got a really cool customer journey that illustrates this. I'll read here. It says this: I found you on Google. So this is a potential visitor here. So they found the church on Google, which we're going to talk about search engine and content marketing. Very, very important. Saw billboards. We're going to get into that, traditional marketing, and a building signage driving by, right? So you already see how a couple different channels are working together here. Stalked you on social media. So there's that one. And saw a friend attended, reached out to her, and decided to try it out based on her enthusiastic feedback. So that's just a great illustration of how all of that works together. And if you were to ask that person, they'd probably say, yeah, I showed up because a friend invited me today, without realizing that actually started on Google. It was reinforced by a couple other channels, and then the friend is what sealed the deal. And so with that aha moment is like, how do we get all of these areas of our church marketing working together? That really is the secret sauce. If there is a secret sauce of marketing, that's it.
Yeah, and I think there's some things you can do, right? So from the chair of the pastor, from the pulpit, right? So as you're trying to lead this, I mean, something that we talk about a lot is you can't just ask your people to invite others. You need to equip them to do it. So you're a good teacher. Teach them how to invite. You're a good explainer of things. Explain to them where to get the resources, how to do these things, how all these things work together. There's lots of ways that you can kind of push this word of mouth thing forward without without guilting people and just saying the same stuff all at the same time.
Yeah, and one of the things that I love about Michael, like every time I see him speaking at a church conference, I'm like, I'm going to listen to his session because it's great stuff. It's great material. So I encourage you to do the same. But one of the sessions that I remember hearing you talk about is encouraging churches to create a central place on their website where all these invite tools are. So you can go to summitparkchurch.com/invite or you can make it personal to your church, obviously. But give an example of that. Like, how does that work? What do you put on there?
So literally, like teaching people to invite. I always tell the story. It's like, if you got a flat tire on the side of the road and you want me to help change your tire, I mean, that's great. But if we don't have a spare tire or a tire iron, we can cast vision all day long, and we don't have the tools, right? So create the tools that help your people do the word of mouth, help them do the inviting stuff, and then put them all in a central place, right? So I would definitely make a page on your website, yourchurch.com/whatever you want it to be, and then tell people, we got graphics for you. We got a Facebook post you can copy and paste. If you can copy and paste, you can invite. We put the graphics there. If you've got a big Easter thing coming up or Christmas thing coming up, you can put that stuff there. You can put stories of people that are inviting. You can, you had a great idea about the billboard of taking a picture, right?
Yeah, and one of the things that I add to what Michael's saying is put that central place, but then create a culture of your church where your people make any marketing the church is doing personal.
Yeah.
That is a game changer. So if the church is going to do a billboard, your people, if they're driving down the highway and they see that billboard, they should know as a part of your church culture, hey, let's pull the car to the side of the highway. I know this sounds crazy, but this is really where the magic happens. We're going to get the family out. We're going to do a selfie with the billboard behind us. And now that family is going to make the marketing from the church personal. They're adding the personal invitation, the word of mouth to the billboard. So if you can create a culture where your church does that, if they see a Facebook ad, they know, hey, I'm making this personal. If they get a mailer in the mail, it's not like, oh, I already go here, I'm going to throw it away. No, something should go off in their brain. How do I make this personal? And when you do that, imagine this, any marketing effort that your church does at kind of a organizational level, your people know how to take that and add that word of mouth component. You get more than double the effectiveness of whatever you're doing at a fraction of the cost. And so that's big.
And we're going to do a session on the traditional marketing, like direct mail and billboards and some of this stuff. Sometimes people say, well, that stuff doesn't work anymore. All the digital stuff works. They work together.
Yeah, absolutely.
And exactly what you're saying with the billboard, with the postcard, you're creating that culture. You're teaching your people how to do the word of mouth stuff, how to use the other assets that you've created. You're teaching your people, which are that's your biggest evangelist.
Yep.
But you're equipping them, you're giving them ideas, you're not just expecting them to do it. You're teaching them to do it.
Yep. Let's jump into the simple action steps. So we've already given you a couple there right away, is go create that central place where people can go. If they're like, hey, do you have any tools or ideas where I can invite my friends in an easy way? There's one central place that you can send your people. Couple other action steps that you can take. One that we had in our notes is this idea of building in time to in your service structure or in your group structure where people can actually practice and implement this.
Love this idea.
Michael and I were talking about this before we hit record, is this idea of in church, we wouldn't invite people, talk about worship, and then say, hey, go home and worship later today. No, we're going to actually sing a few songs together and worship together. And I think more and more as we're in a post-Christian world, we need to start thinking almost as missionaries and like, hey, what would it look like if we took part of our service structure or our small group structure or our Sunday school and actually not talked about inviting your friends, but broke out 3 minutes and say, let's do it. Everybody get out your phones. We've got some example text messages. What if you texted some friends, or go to our church's Facebook page and pick a recent video or post and share it? So I think more and more churches, as we're starting to think like missionaries, will have to actually practice this and set aside time in your service. Don't just say, hey, when you're at home this week. No, you have them right there. Yeah. Practice it right there in service.
It's almost, here's verse out of context, right? But it's almost like redeeming the time, right? Everybody's gathered all together. Yeah, you can try to get them to do it next Thursday, but then they're going to have to remember and overcome like 47 other barriers.
Right.
But what would it look like? You take a couple minutes in your service, or used to shake hands and say hi to somebody. What if you took a couple minutes in your service, and not every week, but every now and then, to say, everybody take out your phones and send this, share this, post this. This works for students, right? Students can do this. Post a picture, do whatever. And now you're taking just a couple minutes in a service to fuel this word of mouth marketing.
And what's cool too is when you start to build that in, ideally that becomes part of the church culture.
Yeah.
So now people are doing that all the time. When God speaks to their heart about that message series that you're so passionate about, and you spent so much time in, you've been begging that they would share those aha moments with their friends, they'll start to do that naturally because you've practiced that as a part of your church service and structures. Another thing that you can do too is we don't have a whole lot of time to talk about reviews, but reviews are another kind of word-of-mouth marketing. Google reviews, Facebook reviews,
leave us a review.
Yelp reviews. So if you have like a growth track or a membership process, assimilation process, somewhere in that process, ask your people who are committed and who want to help your church accomplish the mission to go leave a review for your church somewhere in that.
Then and there.
In the membership class, in 301 or whatever your growth track is. right there where they're like, hey, we want to partner with you. What are some ways that we can help the mission of the church move forward? Leaving us a review is a really simple way. That will also tie into what we're going to talk about next, content marketing and SEO.
Love that.
That'll be a fun one.
Yeah, that'll be fun. So so take this. Your people are a great asset. Equip them, encourage them, give them the tools, and let this kind of word of mouth invite marketing, work together with all the other things you're doing. And that's something you can lead as a pastor. You can do that.
Yep. All right, guys, we still got some great content. We'll see you over in the next episode.